So the last few weeks we've been going through Richard Fleener's collection, and it's like, you know, he's got some beautiful rare stuff. You've seen those videos. Uncle Kathy, you put the link to the videos there in case you haven't seen them. So, we're drooling over his car. And he says, you think that's rare? That's nothing. Let me take you over to my friend Steve Harnell. I'll show you rare. And then you see this. That's off the chain, right? This is, well, go ahead, Steve, tell the story on this thing.
The 1970 Ford King Cobra. This is what they built for 1970 to come after the Talladegas. And they built 6 of them and tested them at Talladega, and they wrecked several of them, and then they tried putting the King Cobra nose on a Talladega body and running it, and they finally went 207, and Bill France came down out of the tower shaking his head and saying, you're not going to do this anymore. We're going to have to run what you sell the public and not just build race cars. And so that was the end of the big deal racing area.
So put this in perspective now. So you had the Talladega, then you had the Charger 500. No, it was a Charger 500 first.
Charger 500 and the Talladega showed up at Daytona at the same time.
Yep.
Then the Daytona.
No, then the Talladega.
Then the Talladega.
Then the Spoiler 2.
Yeah.
Then the Daytona.
Then the Daytona.
Then the Superbird.
Yeah.
Okay, and this fits where into that?
This was built to run against the Superbird and the Daytona.
See, you kind of got to remember the Talladega was designed and built in late 68, 69, hit the track at February in 69. Well, the 70 Torino was already designed, and NASCAR wants you to race, and the factories want you to race what's new right now.
Right.
So they had to get a 70 body as fast, preferably faster than the Talladega and what would soon be out the Daytona. So they were designing this car right about the same time the Talladega was hitting the track, weren't they, Steve?
Yes, it was, early 69 when they designed this car, and it was out and rolling by September of 69.
Now you worked for Ford at this time.
I did.
Okay, and what did you do for them?
I was a parts and service sales specialist, and I took care of Nicholson and Holman and Moody and Bud Moore. I furnished them with their courtesy cars,
So
all
literally,
the Atlanta Falcons coaches, and then I was a technical troubleshooter. Anytime they had a serious problem in the field, I would go out and fix it and show the mechanic what he didn't see.
right.
And get the customer patched up and happy, and then I'd go back to Atlanta and they'd issue another one, off I go again.
So you were the guy, like you handled all of the exotic stuff.
Yeah.
Everything one-off, crazy, prototypes,
Right,
everything passed through your hands.
We had a GT40 there at the plant that we loaned dealers for promos. We put on shows where we brought in Shelby's vehicles and my drag cars and several other fancy vehicles for promos. Don Nicholson helped us out on that a lot because he was based there in Atlanta.
You're actually in the Drag Racing Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
History. We got history here, living history. So let's talk about how you acquire. Okay, so none of these actually made the assembly line,
No.
but this is all factory prototype stuff.
Right.
Okay, so explain wait, before we even do that, before we go over the history of it, let's go over the car. Exactly what do we have here?
Well, it's a steel front bumper that's, only these King Cobras had.
So this isn't a modification of a regular bumper.
No,
This is a stamping
it's
specifically for this.
Specific bumper for the King Cobra.
And these covers here, these headlight covers are removable.
Yeah, the headlight covers are removable.
You want to pop one off?
The front end is fiberglass.
The rest of the car is all Torino from the cowl back.
Yeah, the standard Torino from the doors back.
It has this amazing resemblance to a Nissan Z car. Like
Well,
a
it was
240Z.
designed by Larry Shinoda.
Okay.
who is Japanese, and he also takes credit for the Boss 302 and also Ford's exotic motorhome. But one thing about Shinoda was that the guys in Ford Design hated him. He came from GM with Bunky Knudsen.
Okay.
And the guys at Ford couldn't stand him. They didn't like him or anything about him.
So they took the corporation rivalry to a personal level.
But the Lincoln Mercury people loved him. And he got along very well with all of the Lincoln Mercury designers and all of the people in Ford Performance that on the Mercury side.
So now this nose was on what originally?
This nose came on this car. This was one of the show cars.
Okay.
All right, they used it for PR in Dearborn. And then when they wrecked the cars at Talladega, they went back to Charlotte and got this car, took it down to Talladega, took the nose off of it and put it on a regular Talladega.
Okay.
And put it on another King Cobra, and they tested them. And on the Talladega, it went 207 because the Talladega has a completely different designed roof.
So this actual nose went 207.
Right.
Okay. Now, how did this nose end up back on this car?
I went to Holman and Moody's periodically to get parts. And I stopped in one day and was at the counter, and I asked Gerd Wunderlich. He was over the Ford GT40 program, and I asked Gerd, I said, whatever happened to the King Cobra? And he said, it's out in the hangar. And they had an aircraft hangar next to the building where they stored everything.
What year was this?
That was in 1970.
Okay.
And so I asked him what happened to it. He said it's out in the hangar. So I went out there. The body was in a pigeonhole. They stacked the cars on top of each other in racks. And the front end was in a crate. And so I said, what are you going to do with it? And he said, I don't know. And I said, can it be bought? He said, I'll go see Howard DeHart and see what he says. So Howard's son Gary was a NASCAR crew chief for years. And so a week later, I called to get some parts, and Junior Martin, the parts manager, said, Steve, when you going to come get this car out of our way? Gerd's jumping up and down, and Gerd got on the phone. I talked to him a minute. I said, I'll be there Saturday morning. So I went up and picked it up and took it home and put her all back together, and I drove it on the street. In 1975, I went to a Shelby American show.
So this was your driver. This was like your regular car.
That was my everyday driver.
See, that right there is just, that's off the chain. So this was your regular everyday driver.
Right.
And you took it to a show.
It was a Shelby American show, and when I drove in the driveway and stopped, the whole place cleared out, and they all came running to look at it. They knew what it was, but they'd never seen one. And at that point, I thought, maybe I better quit driving this thing around and show it a little bit. So at that point, I cleaned it up a little. It's never been restored, but it's pretty nice.
It's beautiful.
And
so let's talk about like the nose of this thing specifically. Okay, so it looks to me like they bubbled the fender.
yeah.
Is that about right?
Yeah. In other words, you can take this front end off and put a regular fender on it.
Yeah, but I'm saying this area right here, is this arched, or is that the way it is on the?
It's not that way on the regular car. I mean, it comes straight out this way to about here.
Okay.
So she's a good bit longer than a regular Torino.
And the back of the car is just regular Torino.
Yeah, back of your car, regular Torino.
Can we open that on this?
Sure.
This is an interesting piece. Is this part of the?
That's the air box, and that was peculiar just to this car.
Okay. And you got all of this bracing up in here, the boxing in, I should say. No problem overheating on this?
Sir?
Never any problem overheating with this?
No, none whatsoever.
I guess it's pulling in air from here. Here,
Yeah.
come down here.
Yeah, it takes the air in through the bottom.
That. That's the air intake. This car's immaculate underneath. It's just beautiful. So, the sheet metal or the nose on this thing isn't the only rare piece here. You've got that tri-power intake manifold.
Yeah, that they were experimenting with that on the Cougar Eliminator. They were going to build a big block Cougar Eliminator with a tri-power and a 2-speed rear end. And so one day when I was at home, and I just got one of each.
Can you take that air cleaner off?
Sure. Just come off with it. There we are. Good.
So those are the side-hung float mechanical secondary carburetors that Ford used on the 406, right?
They're big. They're same size as a 427 Corvette.
The 350 CFM center and two 500 outboards.
I believe the outside ones are closer to 600 CFM. They may not be. They may be 500. I'm not real
So
sure.
that's a one of none production intake manifold.
There's rumors that there was. I heard there was 2, but somebody said there was 3. But there weren't very many. It was cast by Buddy Barr out in California, and it's sure not something you'll see every day.
Can you light this thing up for us?
Sure. Whoop. Have to remember everything. I'll be 82 in a couple of weeks.
That's okay. We get
and
the
I'm
power of editing. Don't
getting
worry about it.
stupid in my old age.
Now that doesn't sound like a stock 429 to me. What's in that thing?
It is a 429 Super Cobra jet. It's got a 460 Lincoln crank in it.
Okay.
And a set of Ford experimental pistons. And it's got a Ford racing cam that Holman Moody made. Basically, it's a Holman Moody engine. It's got Holman Moody heads on it. They took a police interceptor and CNC'd the intake ports to match the Super Cobra jets, so that the intake ports are like a funnel. They're real big, and then they narrow down going in, so it speeds up the velocity and you get better fuel atomization that way. And but she's quick.
It sounds
You
like
know.
it's got some.
Oh, last time at the drag strip, I went 12-20 with it, and I wouldn't.
Really?
You know, it had street tires on it, so.
What's the rear gear in it, Steve?
It has a 2-speed changer in the rear, and it's got 457 on the bottom side, 355 on the top side. So
That'll get it done.
you get best of both worlds. You can go to the races, or you can go cruising.
Was that a factory piece, or is that a?
They were experimenting with these 2 speeds for the Cougar Eliminator, and I was there at Holman and Moody's, and they had a pallet of them on a forklift, putting them in the dumpster.
Oh.
And I ran over there and got that one and threw it in my trunk.
That's awesome.
I had the run of the place. John and I were real good friends. He hired me back in '63, right when I got out of Auburn. I had made friends with Tiny Lund at a local Ford dealership right after he won the Daytona 500. Yeah. And we talked, and he left me there with his car, and he and Soapy went and did some running around, and so I cranked the car up every now and then, let the people look at it and all. It was just a dealer promotion. And we got to be good friends, and he invited me to come over to the fish camp in South Carolina, and he'd take me to Holman Moody to see about a job. And I had just got out of Auburn. I didn't know what I was going to do, and so I went to work for Holman for a short period of time, and then Ford Motor Company hired me.
Cool. Did you ever talk to any of the race drivers that test drove these for Ford back in the day?
No, the only driver that the rumor is that Cale's the one that drove the car. That's all I know. And Dick Hutcherson was driving for Holman Moody, and I know he was there. Whether he drove or not, I don't know. I do know that, the car was so squirrely, they had a horrible time with it. But those were the 2 main guys. The Wood brothers weren't involved at that point. In fact, the Mercury program never really got off the ground.
Now you have the mate to this, the Mercury mate
Right,
to this.
I chased the Mercury for 17 years. So the story that I got from Larry Shinoda was that once the racing program was shut down, they shut everything down, that they had one Mercury done, the one that they did the wind tunnel test with. And so Mose Lane, who was, I guess he was vice president under Iacocca. A lot of people don't remember Iacocca was president of Lincoln Mercury. And so Mose Lane took the car home with him. And I've got paperwork that shows that it was assigned to Lincoln Mercury Special Vehicles.
We'll get a look at that one the next time.
Okay. And so that was the story on the Mercury, that they only built one of them. I've got figures where they spent several $100,000 on the program. Of course, they probably would have done the same thing they did with the Talladega. See, they had to build 500 Talladegas to make them legal. Somebody at Lincoln Mercury decided that they could offer the front end as an option, and they didn't have to build 500. All they had to do was build 500 W noses, and part of them could be long noses, and they would be legal, which that infuriated Ford and everybody else. But as I said before, Shinoda got along real well with Lincoln Mercury. And of course the Mercury's whooped the Talladegas, and they didn't have to build as many cars or spend as much money and so forth. But
That car's in a museum.
that car's in the Welborn Museum. I was in here one day and the phone rang up in the barn. My wife hollers down, "Do you know somebody named Eddie Wood?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "He's on the phone." So I go up there and it's Eddie. He said, "Where did you get that car?" And I said, it belonged to Mose Lane. And he said, I know Mose Lane. He was our money man at Lincoln Mercury. I said, that's the one. And so that year I met Lynn Wood and Eddie at Bristol. And we spent half a day together because Trevor Bain was driving for Roush that day on Saturday. And so they got to spend the day with me, and all the Wing Warrior bunch was over there, and they couldn't believe the Wood brothers was going to come over there and hang out with a load of peons.
That's awesome. So back to this car. You still drive this thing?
I do. It's been down Michigan Avenue on the Woodward Dream Cruise. It's been, several different places. Been to the Dearborn Proving Ground several times. We've been up and down Lakeshore Drive at St. Clair Shores, and
it's been to the drag strip.
It's been to the drag strip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this with us. There's one other car that you have that I want to show our guys.
Okay.
Your Ranchero?
Yeah.
Give us a quick walk around on that?
Yeah. We'll do that.
Come on, let's go to the other shop. Over here. I find this offensive as a Mopar guy, but it's okay here. It's okay here. See, this car is completely off the chain.
Different strokes for different parts.
So you bought this car new?
Yeah. Yeah, it was my tow car for several years.
You towed your Superstock cars with this?
Yeah.
And what were you running in Superstock?
67 Comet, 68 Shelby GT500. Then I towed my 69 Corvette with it for years to the shows. It hadn't been started in months, so we'll just have to see what happens.
This is your tow car, huh?
It's probably, the choke's probably shut on it.
That's right, we get the general idea.
Yeah,
So it's a 429 Super Cobra jet.
yeah. 4-speed, ram air, drag pack.
Is this the original paint?
New door gaskets on it. What?
Is this the original paint?
No. I redid it about 3 years ago. It was getting tired looking, and I decided to go over it and freshen it up a bit. So, same engine. It's a Holman Moody engine. It's a 30 over Super Cobra jet. It's got 30 over original TRW single valve relief pistons in it. It's got a cam that Joe Rumpf ground for me before he passed away. It's got a Holman Moody 429 intake on it.
And you ran this car also?
Yeah, I used to run it, yeah.
And what did it go?
Oh, anywhere from 12, 20s up to 13 something before I started monkeying with it. I tried 2.4s on it, and I tried several different intakes, and I ended up with the police interceptor heads with Super Cobra jet valves, and Holman matched the ports to the large diameter intake, and that was the key to really get the power out of it.
You've got a set of NASCAR heads over there you were showing me before.
Yeah, those are a set of the big valve, big port heads, and then I've also got a NASCAR single plane intake over there.
We'll have to look at, we're going to come back because you have a lot of stuff here. You have a lot of history. So we're definitely going to come back. I'd like to do some stuff on the more exotic Ford things, the engine stuff we've come across.
Okay.
Steve, thank you so much for
Yes,
sharing
sir.
your stuff.
Yes, sir.
Richard, thank you for introducing us to the whole three-way handshake.
Steve's a great guy.
Oh no, this is awesome. This is awesome. I'm in love with this. This is just too much. This cost is perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Can make me Ford guy in me yet, right?
We're whittling away at it.
But you know what to do, right? 10, you're supposed to say,
See you tomorrow.
there you go. See you tomorrow.
I hear you. See you later, alligator.